origin. An ancient warship on a modern journey of discovery that could change everything you thought you knew about the Vikings.
Draken is the world's largest Viking ship that we could even conceive of.
It was important for me to investigate, are these Viking ships as good as the sources tell us?
Everything on this ship can kill me.
If I was a Viking, I would have turned right the f around and gone back in.
It's insane.
The settlement in North America is only temporary. Did they die? Did they starve? Did they freeze to death?
We're finding new things all the time. I think we should be able to end the debate once and for all.
This is Viking Quest, America. On the 1000th anniversary of the Vikings' daring crossing of the Atlantic in an open wooden ship, an international team of sailors is now about to retrace the path that blazed the trail to the New World 500 years before Columbus.
Set sail!
It's taken 8 years of science and sweat to get here. Now the time has come to leave Norway and set sail into the unknown.
I thought about how it must have been for the Vikings sailing their ships into something completely unknown. And of course it must have been quite scary, but also really exhilarating and exciting.
Draken's captain is Bjorn Allander.
We're gonna go up here, sail downwind, and alter our course to starboard.
17 male and 17 female sailors representing 10 countries embark on this adventure. It's taken 8 years of engineering, construction, and historical research to get here. They've done all they can to prepare. But on the open sea, they must be vigilant. If any one of them gets a serious injury, the complex and unprecedented mission will be over.
The other way.
Which is why, even before they start, Bjorn has stern words for his crew.
You should stop the work like that.
Yeah, okay.
You should not send up one guy up.
Yeah. I'm coming down.
As captain, his word is law. There's too much at stake to have an injury over a tangled knot.
We should be secured. And that is your fucking responsibility to stop a work aloft.
This lesson in teamwork will soon save lives. The problem is discovered.
We found out that our new vitals, the thing that holds the tack down, is actually a little bit untrimmed. So it's making the hole wider so that the tack can actually run through it.
And it's fixed for good.
We are on the road. Now we're heading up towards starboard, and we're gonna soon be close-hauled up to try to reach the northern part of Shetland Islands.
Bjorn's plan is to sail to the Shetland Islands, then the Faroe Islands, 3 days to Iceland, 5 days to Greenland, and finally, 5 days to Newfoundland, the easternmost point of the New World. There, the Draken will make landfall near the site of L'Anse aux Meadows, the only known Viking settlement in North America. From here, a new adventure begins as Draken sails deep into the heart of North America, proving the Vikings could have done the same thing. A tribute to the Norse explorers who reached the Americas 10 centuries ago.
Right now, I'm super excited about Iceland. After that, it's always been a dream to see Greenland. And I hope to see some whales and some icebergs and stuff like that.
not been to Greenland ever, and I'd really like to hope that we can get in there. It'd be nice to sail amongst icebergs, to sail around in seas that we've not been in before. You might get some quite extreme conditions. It might be one of those things which is horrible at the time, but nice to look back on. But we'll see what happens.
The crew of Draken are retracing the Viking roots. But are the Vikings who we think they are?
Most of us look at Vikings as big, blonde males going out, raiding.
The reality is, from our research, is that things were evidently much more complicated than that.
For the first time, geneticists are discovering the truth about who the Vikings really were.
Thanks to the new sequencing technologies, we have now been able to move this kind of research into the realm of ancient DNA. So we don't have to take DNA from a modern person and sequence that. We can actually directly sequence DNA from ancient material, from archaeological materials, and reconstruct the entire genome of a person that lived thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of years in the past.
Scientists visited Viking archaeological sites wherever they were suspected to exist and took DNA samples.
Of course, from a particular individual, we might sample multiple places. So we might pick a tooth or a bone, depending on what kind of material is available. In this particular study, we were able to produce genetic data that's useful for a total of 442 individuals.
This staggering accomplishment, sequencing the complete DNA of 442 individual ancient Vikings, throws the doors open to a whole new level of science.
So it gives us, for the first time, sort of a direct window into the past that we didn't have before.
Firstly, the science confirms what the archaeologists had suspected, that different Viking groups ventured to different places. The Danish Vikings to England, the Swedish Vikings to the Baltics, and the Norwegian Vikings to Ireland, Iceland, and Greenland. The DNA reveals one more astonishing thing.
Not all the Vikings were pure Scandinavian. Some of them were mixed, between Scandinavian and other Europeans.
The Viking world, or Vikings in general, was quite a dynamic and complex place with lots of diversity.
There was fewer blonde Vikings than there's blonde Scandinavians today. Some of them had no Scandinavian ancestry altogether. Vikings buried with swords and shields in Scotland. And they're Vikings, but they're not Scandinavian, right? So even though the Viking period started from Scandinavia, it's like a lifestyle. It's not an ethnicity, being a Viking.
The Vikings were definitely not who we think they were. Back on Draken, it's a race against time. The winds will only be favorable for a few more weeks. After that, the easterly winds around Greenland will shift, making the voyage impossible. On the very first evening, trouble is already looming on the horizon.
The sea conditions is starting to get a little bit rougher.
The crew begins a schedule that will define and possibly save their lives.
We have a watch system, so 15 people will be out on deck working, and the other 15 will be asleep in the tent at that time. We swap over every 4 hours, so everybody gets, hopefully, a good chance to get rested while we're away.
When one watch is waked up in the tent, we line up and they take over the watch.
Good morning. It's cold and it's dry, but the deck is wet. It's dry and windy.
Off-going watch is going in to the same bunk as the other guy was leaving just minutes before.
Then I go back to bed, only straight off the watch because you're very cold. Sailing up there after 4 hours outside, you're freezing. At least I am, especially your fingers. So you go to take a nap and try to regain some heat. And you lie down in the tent together with the others. And it's a bit like a walrus colony.
And in the cold and darkness, just as the night watch team gets in place, disaster strikes. barely a day into their epic quest. 34 lives are in peril, with no hope of rescue. At dawn, Draken's crew discovers the damage caused by howling winds the night before.
One of the first shroud on the starboard side had parted aloft just near the collar, I believe.
Shrouds are the heavy lines attached to each side of the mast to hold it upright and keep it from swaying from side to side. Without it, Draken's mast will never survive the Atlantic crossing.
We've all been working very hard. We stretched the rig throughout the night. It was a bit too loose. I was called up from watch several times. So myself, I'm running on just maybe 2 hours of solid sleep. They rigged a temporary shroud just to sort of take the pressure off, and then we head downwind towards Shetland. And we're going to try to do repairs.
Draken now limps towards the Shetlands, 100 kilometers away, the same place where the mast snapped during sea trials 2 years ago. Sailors are superstitious. It's an omen that has everyone worried.
I mean, it's just one half of a shroud that parted. It's the forwardmost. But in order to replace that shroud, we're probably going to have to pull the mast off with a crane and take it ashore, and then have to take the whole rig off because the first shroud is the lowest one down. It takes most of the pressure when the ship is rolling really hard.
The Vikings had no cranes to help them 1,000 years ago. The crew wonders how they could have survived a similar setback. The Shetlands are part of Scotland now, but Norse heritage is strong here. Vikings first came here 1,200 years ago. The Shetlands were under Norwegian rule for 7 centuries.
Welcome to Lervik. We're probably gonna be here for 1 or 2 days.
In 1470, the King of Norway offered them as security for his daughter's marriage to King James III of Scotland. When the dowry was never paid, Scotland seized the islands for good.
Today we have a hard job, actually, for the riggers. 3 o'clock there will be a crane here to lift the mast, and then we start to stretch everything. We're gonna study the weather situation very carefully today. It looks like we can get southwesterly winds, at least for most of the part up to Faroe Islands.
There is no time to waste repairing the shroud.
There's a lot to do. We've taken the entire rig off of the mast. The work here is progressing quite on pace. It's nice to have so many people that are quite skilled and eager to work.
Nu ska vi klä neråt här.
The emergency stop is also a welcome opportunity for some Viking-style maintenance.
So the tar will go on lightly but thoroughly. Use warm tar, it's more efficient.
The ropes are made of hemp and easily corrode from seawater. The tar is a natural protectant and was as available in Viking times as today.
Now we're preparing the mast to be lifted again. So we got the crane here and got everything set for the lift. This lift width makes sure that, first of all, we got everything connected up top. Yeah, I think we sail tomorrow.
This whole mess needs to go on board the ship and be ready to go before that can happen, so it'll be a long night.
The 3-ton mast is lifted back into place. the new shroud firmly attached.
Yes, sir.
The gigantic one-ton yard is the final piece of the puzzle.
We can push it, okay? Yeah.
There's a lot to do, but I think we'll get it done. It's all coming together. I'm going to unflip.
Every second counts. By mid-May, the favorable winds to cross the Atlantic fade, and with them, a dream that has echoed through 1,000 years. The next morning, Draken is finally ready to set sail again. But not everyone is on board. One crew member decides against carrying on.
One of the volunteers, American girl, she took her bag and went ashore.
The memories of the mast snapping in two during sea trials, and now a broken shroud, is 2 times unlucky and too much for her.
I thought, now many gonna do the same. I was worried.
But the others choose to stay. They leave the port of Lerwick in calm seas.
We're about to leave Shetland. Finally, we have a new rig. We've repaired everything, strengthened the rig, and we're on our way to Faroe Islands. Hopefully there in less than 2 days.
Back up!
Starboard brace. Starboard brace. Ease down the windlass. We just have to lift it enough to pull the brake so everybody can get on the same bars that are in. Lägg i bromsen! Lägg i bromsen! You can ease the sheet a little bit. Take fast cykling. Hands to the house. Högst i gång. Då är skut!
Draken is steered from the side, not the rear. It's a design unique to Viking vessels, both practical and functional.
The Viking ship has a rudder called a steering oar, which is situated on the starboard side. Quite different from a modern vessel where you often see the rudders in the bottom, in the center of the ship. This is good because when you're gonna go raiding as a Viking, you can just sail straight up to the beach and you can actually just lift up your steering oar so you can keep it from getting damaged while entering a beach. The Vikings actually made the rudder asymmetrical, like you would see on an airplane wing. This is very ingenious considering the time.
The asymmetrical design improves water flow around the rudder, minimizing any drag it might create.
The sail should be live.
Trimming the sail is another tool in achieving maximum efficiency.
We have to have a good speed now. And tonight the wind will increase to 8 before, and that will make us speeding up a lot.
Now, west of the Shetlands, they're alone on the open waters of the Atlantic for the first time. Bjorn is feeling confident in ship and crew.
Shake out the reef and connect the bonnet and hoist the sail.
He decides to add the bonnet to the bottom of the sail.
Coffee break is in half an hour. Maybe we can have the reef and bonnet on.
I think it'll take us a little bit longer to attach that bonnet since it's our first time.
All right.
The bonnet is an extended piece of sail, increasing its surface area and giving the ship more speed.
We're going to overhaul the gullings on the other side of the sail, please. Make sure they're all loose. On the sail itself.
Let's let it free.
Stick prior! Vi stick bolin och penta!
The further west they go, the higher the waves and wind.
Draken is an amazing sailing vessel. She flies almost up on the waves. She's very full in the bow, and she really lifts. And also the sails helps to lift the hull, and she's very stable.
Maritime engineers believe the ridged design of the Viking hull makes the vessel extremely hydrodynamic.
Some people say that the reason why these boats became so fast was that when the water came under the strakes of the hull, it would create a little bit of air bubbles and the ship would sort of ride on air.
I'm really positively surprised about how well she sails, how sharp she can go against the wind, and how fast she's actually sailing. The other sailing, like tall ships I've been sailing on, has never gotten this speed.
This 1,000-year-old design competes with the most modern marine marvels.
You can hear it when the ship is going through a calm sea, when she's not smashing into the waves, when there's a decent amount of wind. It's a unique thing, and we can get going quite fast if the conditions are right.
The forecast is for gale force winds overnight. It's the most severe weather Draken has ever faced. As the wind increases through the afternoon, the crew of Draken fears for the recently repaired shroud. This is Draken's first real test.
We had some problems with following waves. When the wave come up from behind, if you don't sail fast enough or you're just unlucky, it might just come into the boat, and you can't really protect yourself against that. So that makes you vulnerable.
Starboard watch. We relieve the helmsman, one lookout, and the rest of us start to clear up the deck.
The winds howl through the night.
The wind is from the north, somewhere over 30 knots. The waves, they appear to be something like 3 meters, which means 6 meters from trough to tip.
In the darkness, a terrifying sound.
Us there! On the port side.
The sail rips. It's too dark and too dangerous to determine just how bad the damage is. They must wait until daylight. The tear is right at the rigging point, and it's too severe to fix at sea.
It has been a rough night, actually. We got the forecast and recommended sailing routes. They said the front should pass, and that should be force 8, but it was wrong. It was much more wind.
Force 8 is a gale. Bjorn believes they faced more like a 10 on a scale of 12. Bjorn orders the crew to remove the damaged sail. They're too far from the Shetland Islands to turn back, and the Faroe Islands are 12 hours away. The crew puts on survival suits and braces for the worst.
It's big waves, potential breakers and things. You better be ready. If you go in the water without a survival suit, chances are you'll have a very difficult time.
Draken is equipped with powerful pumps. But modern pumps have never been tested on a 1,000-year-old Viking ship in the middle of a raging storm.
We had breaking waves, which is always scaring on an open ship. We have to handle that. We have the pumps going all the time.
We were all quite awed by how she was actually handling it. Then suddenly there's a wave coming from behind. Just right on top of the boat. And it just came out of nowhere. And both me and Björn got a bit knocked over, ending up on the leeward side.
2 years of training is put to the test.
All of the crew were professionals in sailing. We all knew what to look after, what's dangerous to do and what's safe to do. Where is safe to stand and what's dangerous.
The wind is going more to west, and we try to reach Faroe Islands as soon as possible. Because a new gale is coming, a new storm is coming. North Sea in a storm is not a healthy place for any ship. Hopefully, we are there tonight. I have been on deck in 24 hours now. That's the privilege a skipper has, to be on deck all the time. Maybe I should catch some sleep tomorrow morning.
By evening, the winds have calmed. The Faroe Islands are finally in sight. Once again, the crew prepares for the hard work of taking down the mast rig for repairs. The Faroes are halfway between Norway and Iceland, a volcanic chain and one of the most isolated and unforgiving places on Earth. Until recently, historians thought the Vikings were the first settlers in the Faroes, but exciting new discoveries challenge that belief. The Viking history in the Faroes is shrouded in mystery that modern science is now trying to solve.
Until about 10 or 12 years ago, it was thought that the first people to arrive in the Faroe Islands were the Vikings, the Norse people. Then there was an excavation of a Viking house, and underneath the foundation, they found 5 or 6 grains of barley that were burnt. They radiocarbon dated the barley grains, and they dated from somewhere between 300 and 600 AD. So 400 or 500 years at least before the conventional arrival of the Vikings.
So if the Vikings didn't settle the Faroes, who were these people?
If you look at the genetic makeup of the population in the Faroe Islands today, there are 2 strands, so to speak. One is the Scandinavian, and the other is the British Celtic population. And funnily enough, most of the males have the Scandinavian connection, and the females are more connected to the Celtic region.
No one knew the Celts had sailed this far west as early as the 4th century. The discovery suggests the Vikings dominated and ultimately absorbed these early settlements. This time, 1,000 years later, a Viking ship approaches not as a conquering foe, but as a welcome friend. There's no time to waste. The crew gets to work, repairing the damaged sail.
Putting in some new reef points and grommets. But now to make sure that we have strong reef points all the way and good reefs for the next part of the trip.
The tear happened where the rope connected to the sail, called a reef point. The force on that point is the strongest and needs to be doubly reinforced. There are no more stops between here and Iceland and no margin for error. As the sail gets repaired, the rest of the crew makes a welcome excursion into a land where Viking history runs deep. And the history of the sea runs even deeper.
We are visiting a museum in Lervik, and we're looking at some fishing vessels which apparently sailed from Faroe Island to Iceland, which feels reassuring.
Okay, thanks.
Dawn. The sail is repaired. Every available deckhand hauls the 300 square meter cloth back to Draken. Rigging it has become all too familiar. It's a good sign that the vessel and its crew are in sync. Draken leaves the comfort of the Faroes. It's a 3-day voyage on open ocean to the coast of Iceland. There are no remote islands for emergency repairs, and there is no turning back. Draken has had 2 setbacks so far, and the voyage's greatest challenges are still ahead.
The next leg up to Iceland, it's longer. It's almost the same distance as we have covered in the 2 legs coming up here. But in one go, at least 4 days at sea, so quite tough.
So far the trip was certainly very interesting. I like very much the rough sailing and crossing the North Sea. It wouldn't have been the same if the North Sea was just calm. North Sea lives up to its name and gave us a butt kicking.
We're gonna go as close as possible northwestwards and waiting for the shift of the wind. Take your time now and clean up on deck. Hang up everything. Be prepared for darkness. Starboard, keep on good work for 4 hours. And the rest of the crew, go to your bunks and catch some sleep.
The wind direction is picking up, and it's always tricky with islands around because you don't really know how much wind you are going to expect as soon as the landscape opens up. It's definitely going to get worse as soon as we get out of the protection of the islands.
Good work.
I think we have some rough seas ahead of us. The first 2 legs from Norway to Shetland and from Shetland to Faroe Islands, they are quite short, 1-2 days. So we are able to predict the weather pretty good. Now we have 4 days sailing to Iceland and more than maybe a week from Iceland to Greenland. So we are not able to to know that much about the weather we are going into.
Iceland is 700 kilometers from the Faroe Islands. The Viking journey across the Atlantic was one of the most astounding feats of bravery of its time.
The Vikings that came to Iceland must have had this amazing sense of exploration. I guess some of them also had no choice. When you're pressed against the wall, when you have nothing else to turn to, it's just a gamble. We hear this lands that way. We'll take a chance and sail there. I mean, they sent fleet to Iceland and Greenland, and only a fraction of them ever got here. We know that some very hardy and perhaps lucky, knowledgeable sailors were capable of finding this place again.
Draken's crew now braces for the infamous violence of the North Atlantic. Instead, they sail through welcoming bright seas. After 3 days, the coast of Iceland comes into view.
It was so beautiful. First we saw the cloud, we saw the 2,000 meters high mountain.
Amazingly, just as they spot the shoreline, a whale breaches the surface nearby.
It was like a beautiful day, and there were whales coming up along the boat, and we sailed along the south coast. It was really fantastic.
To the Vikings, whales were an omen of good luck. And for the first time, the crew's confidence rises that their mission may succeed.
I was thinking this was what Vikings should have looked for. So it's gorgeous to enter to a country on a Viking ship and see that. The happy days are starting. We have done 1/3 of the trip, and we are going to entering Reykjavik harbor tonight.
Draken is now at the threshold between the old world and the new, the first Viking ship of this size to attempt the journey in 1,000 years.
Til Reykjavik, så har vi en svensk mannskår.
I want to express my deep respect for excellent seamanship. All crew have arrived safely after a very long trip from Haugesund, which was certainly not obvious 1,000 years ago when these ships sailed across the Atlantic.
I sincerely hope that your journey for the next days and weeks will be a happy one, and you will have a good sailing to America.
Yeah, it was a lot of people coming to welcome us, a lot of people on board.
Row and row hard. Today, my heart sings the songs of the ancients. I see a mast and a sail. From 1,000 years, they sailed this great ship that appears before us this day. Behold its beauty on the sea, but embrace the dragon, Harald Fairhair.
Iceland is the literal divide between Europe and North America. The 2-day stop builds confidence that their journey will be a triumph.
The voyage here have been sometimes real tough for the crew. We have had some problems. We have gone into harbor and repair.
Bjorn believes the challenges the crew has endured has prepared them for what's ahead.
I was thinking that the crew should be worried, but the work together in the hard winds and waves strengthened the crew. And now we have managed to come here. That's a big milestone, and all the crew want to go on the next step now.
The pleasures of Iceland are over. Draken has half an ocean ahead to prove that she can do what the Vikings did 1,000 years ago. And the ship has yet to face her greatest enemy, ice. "1,500 kilometers of icy seas are ahead to make landfall in Greenland, the longest stretch of the entire journey."
We're gonna try to reach Greenland, and that will be 800 nautical miles. If we have a speed of 7 knots in average, we should reach Cape Farewell in 4 days. And if we make 6 knots, 5 days. We're gonna have a good lookout all the time, both on bridge and radar. Maybe we need 2 watchmen later on to be ready for looking for ice.
Drowning, exposure, starvation. These are the enemies the Vikings faced on the long voyage from Iceland to Greenland. The modern-day crew of Draken faces the same challenges.
It can get pretty damn cold during the night watches. It's gonna get colder though. We're in the Gulf Stream at the moment, and once we leave the Gulf Stream, once we get to Greenland, that's going to be something else. That's about 0 to 2 degrees surface temperature at sea. It's not the same as in land. It's much more aggressive.
No one is prepared for the nightmare at sea that is about to push this crew and ship to the limits of survival.
This is really dangerous waters, and we are quite lonely.